Welcome, Money Buddies, to this week's episode of Money Talk. This week, we're talking about what financial freedom really means, how to set yourself up for success now, and how to deal with all the nuance that goes into our financial lives. I'm your host, Skylar Fleming, and let's get talking. Today's conversation is an absolutely fantastic one that you're not going to want to miss. And it's one that you're going to want to make sure your friends and family don't miss either. So please share this episode and let's have some stronger and better money talks about financial freedom. We're going to tackle financial freedom and some of the nuances around it so that you can set yourself up for success. We're also going to talk about some of the challenges that come with early retirement so that you can be prepared. And I know at some point or another, we all feel like our financial situation isn't perfect and we don't know if we're ever going to be able to reach financial independence. Today's Money Buddy and I are going to tackle a lot of fantastic conversation points around financial independence, a lot of things that you've never considered, like the fact that calculating your FI or financial independence number right now might just flat out be the wrong number. And that's something that I realized during this discussion. It's going to be a great one that you don't want to miss. And of course, be sure to check out Financial Planning for Young Adults. It's a new podcast that I rolled out a couple months ago, and we have a lot of great episodes coming out over there. The link is in the show notes, and make sure to subscribe to that show as well. But today's Money Buddy is Daniel Rodgers. Daniel is a financial educator and award-winning author and former program manager who spent 20 years leading complex programs at Microsoft and Google before retiring early. He's the author of Escape the Clock, Your Program Guide to Financial Freedom and Early Retirement. And he's won a Literary Titan Award, the Pencraft Award for Best Retirement Book, and the American Writing Award for the Best Personal Finance Book. Daniel also hosts a top 15 Apple podcast called Escape the Clock, where he teaches potential strategies for budgeting, saving, investing, and building a personalized plan for financial freedom. This week's money talking points are: 1, is financial freedom available for everyone? 2, what does work optional really mean? And 3, what are some misconceptions about early retirement? With those many talking points in mind, let's get talking and welcome Daniel to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Anytime someone brings a topic across my desk that's financial freedom, financial independence, it's always a fun conversation to have because honestly, there's a minority amount of people that actually know about this. Let's start off today with just some of the money talking points. And as a reminder for those listening, these are just simple, easy questions that you can take and start a money talk of your own. So we'll start off with the first one here, Daniel. Is financial freedom available for everyone? What do you think about that?
I'd say absolutely. There's a math piece here, right? But I would start with answering that I know that the starting line is not the same for everyone. It's not like everyone spawns in a completely fair difficulty in the game. You know, the system is definitely designed for a hard mode for everyone. But some people do start with more resources than others or more opportunities. And that does seemingly more difficult for certain people. But the truth is, with income and time, anyone can achieve it. Now, I think where you have to be honest is about what standard of living you're looking to live at. And I feel like where people struggle with this is not understanding the math. That's easy, right? You collect some data, you calculate the number, we can see what we're doing. And there's a goalpost that we're talking about here. The question is, do you know how you want to live in your future? And that's a much harder question to answer. And that's where I see people will trip up. And of course, the earlier you are in your journey, the harder that is. Your life is going to have all these twists and turns and whatnot. And so I do think that there's this kind of target that focuses, the more we stare at it as we get closer to a potential goal. And so for me, I knew I wanted to have financial freedom early-ish in my journey. Had so much debt. And so for me, I was like, okay, how do I even start this? This is even impossible. It just felt like an impossible goal.
Yeah.
But as I went through that journey, it got more and more obvious what I was trying to do. And I was like, wow, I wish I knew half of these amazing strategies. If I'd done them earlier, how much more powerful and faster that path would have been. I could have easily hit my goal half the time if I had known what I had known. So that's why I'm teaching it now, because I want people to have those tools, because knowing it as early as possible is amazing, because time is the accelerator. It really, really is. It allows you to be riskier. It allows you to, have more diversification, all kinds of stuff. But that's not to say you can't do it later. There's definitely catch-up strategies and things like that too. But yeah, that's my answer. Yes, anyone can do it, but you do have to have some level of income. You can't do it without any cash. You have to have some cash. And with that, you can start to decide the standard of life that is comfortable for what is enough. And enough is a interesting question, but then yeah, you can achieve it.
Yeah, you kind of, what you outlined there is that you find that math number, right, which is just going to be that goalpost. And
Yeah.
then life is these like barriers around you that's slowly honing in on what you want to do as you keep bouncing off of them. Like you mentioned, the twists and turns that you don't know what direction life is going to take you. And to emphasize your point of if you are able to start early, that's a massive deal because there's this idea and this like just mathematical concept of coast fire where
Hmm.
you can set aside a specific amount of money and know it's going to grow to whatever your goal is. And that is such a smaller number the younger you are because you have time for that to grow. So the longer you're able to let that work, the more freedom you're going to have from having to necessarily invest because maybe you do enjoy working, right? There's a population out there that enjoys it, or maybe they find something valuable in those different experiences they're having and they want to stick to it and keep making some money, but maybe they don't want to go out and try to make the highest amount in the biggest corporate job they can find. So what we're
Yeah.
really painting there is there's a lot of options. And once you begin to set up these goalposts, you can really just fluctuate between all these different things and really figure out what you want to do.
Yeah. And that's why I talk about this as making work optional and not about a retirement, because a retirement means the end of something. It actually means to go out to pasture, not a great term. I don't think of myself that way. I look at myself as having the option. I created choice. And you're absolutely right. If you were to invest even $100 a month starting at the age of 25, you would hit a standard retirement age with $600,000 in a retirement account. And that's not even assuming certain investment strategies and stuff. That's just a basic contribution, compounding growth strategy. If you had waited 10 years later, and you'd have to double your contributions at 35 to get to that same number. So it just shows you how just don't have to lift as heavy of a rock if you're starting earlier because you have leverage working for you. But if you wait, you're going to have to be able to throw more of your resources into it. It can feel a little more painful, but because ideally you've built up your human capital, you might make more money, you can still get there.
Yeah, you can always still figure it out whether you're starting at 20. It may be a little bit easier. Like you said, some of us, maybe we spawn into the money realm, right, with a little bit more time resources, or you come into it with more, like you said, income resources. And to speak to your piece about once you start to know the math, it's like every financial teacher's favorite trick question is who's going to have more money, or the person who started earlier, the person who has more that starts later. Like everyone loves to give that example at some point, but it's so true. I was running some numbers for a client for their children, right? Just to show them, because they told me that one of their values is they want to make sure to teach their children well. And I ran some numbers on $100 over the rest of their lifetime per month of what it would be by the time they were 65, right? Like a traditional retirement. And the difference between their, like you said, their 10-year-old and their 1-year-old was like $3 million at like just that kind of a time gap over that much longer, because it gets to double and double again, maybe one or two more times. So that
Yeah.
magic of compound interest is exceptional and extremely like understated. Like everyone will say, "Oh, I wish I knew about compound interest," but we're still really not doing it justice to how powerful it can be.
I mean, it's so powerful. And a lot of people just tripped on it and didn't even have a strategy and
And it
ended up
works.
with, yeah, it just works, Matt, like in the background. I always call it like AFK farming. It's like, imagine you're farming for experience to level up without doing the work. You're asleep and yet your money is still working for you. And I think a lot of you might start asking, well, how do I really do that? And again, the system is really designed to be in a hard mode. When you borrow, the interest rates compound against you that bury you in debt. So it's very difficult to get ahead if you're paying that premium on borrowing money and taking that money from your future self. But when it comes to saving, once you realize that you're getting nothing in a standard savings account, like it's criminal. Inflation means you're getting a negative return in a normal savings account. Just never use a normal savings account. It's not ever a good place to put your money. It's criminal. Yeah, it really is. Once you put your money in a high yield savings account, which there's so many options now, well, now you're actually making your money compound in a positive way as long as you're beating inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at CPI numbers. You can see what inflation is. You can get a good idea. Am I doing okay or not? And if you're like, well, I don't like that the interest rate fluctuates daily or whatever, great. Okay, start looking at some certificates. Look at locking in your money in a way where you have a more guaranteed return. There are so many options out there once you start educating yourself. And now these are just tools.
Mm-hmm.
Once you know your number, these are just tools to get you there. And once you get there, then it's about, like you said, it's not necessarily about quitting your job. It's just about knowing you can quit your job and you're going to be okay. And that just redefines the way you live. It takes all the stress off of you. It might change the way you act at your job. Now you're office spacing it, and magically you might be getting ahead without trying. There's all kinds of cool things that start happening once you are a financially free person.
Yeah. And that conversation right there, we kind of answered the second money talking point, but I want to mention it just for everyone listening so that they can take it and go talk with their family and friends. And that was, what does work optional really mean? You just heard us talk there about a lot of different ideas. It means that you can breathe a little easier at work. It means you can maybe have some more flexibility, that you don't feel like you're so forced to keep up with the grind, right? But I do want to move on to our third money talking point, which is, what are some common misconceptions about early retirement? One of them, of course, is that work optional piece, is that maybe you keep working, right? What are some misconceptions that people don't consider about early retirement?
I like that one. I want to start there actually, because I think a lot of people think of it as, I'm not working, I'm quote unquote retired, because there's a standard definition of what retirement means. Some people think, oh, it means just sleeping in all the time. It means just not having to go and sit in traffic. Yeah, it does mean that stuff. But there's this sobering stat, which is there's a 40% rise in clinical depression in the first year of a quote unquote early retirement, because people feel a loss of something. They assume happiness because you've left this job that might have been a drag on you. Well, now that's not exactly this magical transformation like that. If you're leaving something behind, you're losing something. But when you think about it as a transition forward into a new life, into something you're excited about, and you bring those best parts of your current life with you, those relationships that you want to maintain, or the relationships that you feel like you've kind of neglected, you want to bring back, and you start to kind of structure the life you want to live instead of escaping a life that might have felt exhausting or entrapping. Now it's a more powerful thing. And I do think there's a misconception about, I just don't like my job, I want to stop my job. And I feel like in that case, you should take a sabbatical. You should try to find some other option to do a trial run and see how much is the early retirement what you want versus escaping a job what you want. And I can tell you, in our early retirement situation, it's a great opportunity to build new skills, to develop new human capital. When I started doing it, I want to write. So I'm writing books all the time and I'm loving that. And that's fun. I'm getting better at it. But at the same time, I'm like, I kind of tripped into this finance thing. I'm helping people. This feels good. I decided to go back to school. I'm getting a wealth management degree for no other reason that I want to.
For fun.
And it's the first time in my life I'm going to school and I'm actually enjoying it.
I've seen that a lot among early retirees where they like go take the CFP coursework just for fun over a few years.
It's really interesting. It's validating. A lot of what I'm seeing there are things I figured out on my own in my journey. And I see it in a different angle than I think someone who is maybe in their 20s and trying to become a certified financial planner because they're doing it because it's a job path. I'm doing it because I've gone through and I've lived a lot of the things, and there's all these different philosophies and behavioral economics and things that describe human behavior in a way that I resonate with. I'm like, oh, that's me. I've done that. I've sold that stock at a bad time. I've held on to something because I felt pride in the thing I had owned, or it's just part of my identity. There's so much about ourselves entangled in our jobs and our finances and all aspects of our life. And I think there's a misconception that once I'm in an early retirement, I'm just going to be the best, happiest version of myself.
Yeah.
But that self-discovery doesn't stop. Like, you still do it, but you have more time to do it. Because what early retirement is, it's reclaiming your time. That's what it really is. You're buying your time back. And then time is a currency. It's just like anything else in my mind. Like, how do you spend it? Well, there's only so many ways. It's a finite number. How do you want to spend that time? Do you want to spend it learning new skills? Do you want to spend it sleeping? Do you want to spend it playing a game? Do you want to spend it talking to someone, traveling, whatever it is? Well, there's stress in decision making. So it's not like early retirement's a stress-free life. You still have decisions to make. There's still trade-offs. There's days you don't feel good and you don't know why. You still have to go and do that work. But it does give you so much more time back, and the external stresses of a job do go away. It's just whatever you put on yourself. It gives you this luxury of that resource back, so you can process things and you can do that work in a much more productive way than you ever could before.
Yeah. I like that you talked about, like, it's not just going to be this instant happiness, but there is still Like when you put in that work and you're willing to almost make retirement like a job. I've heard that idea out there before of like
Yeah.
you work on yourself and you work on retiring, and then it can be extremely beneficial. Has there been any other like big surprises that came out of retiring early, either good or bad?
On the good side, it's how easy the money part has been.
Yeah.
I just shocks me. I thought I would be so stressed about money during it, and I've always stressed about money. I grew up very poor, have a scarcity mindset. I always think I'm not going to have enough, and now it's just that's kind of gone. I can spend. And by the way, this is not happening for everyone. There's a lot of data that shows that people in these situations stay in a scarcity mindset. They will not allow themselves to spend all the way up into their deathbed. And they have a regret that I still the saving and I never spend any of it. And I couldn't break that behavior. You can though. And I actually found that when you build up enough capital, it really allows you protect it in the right ways. And then you can allow it to generate enough money to take care of your annual costs. And that's where mine is. This year I had a 0% withdrawal rate. Now, I'm not bragging. I'm just pointing out that it was a surprise. I really did not expect to have anything less than my standard withdrawal rate on a given year. I knew it would ebb and flow, but I thought within a range. I'm a very data-driven person. I thought it might be 2% one year and it might be 6% another year. A 0% is not something I expected. So that was a pleasant surprise. So that's great. There's all kinds of strategies that become available in your tool belt once you enter that situation, because once income, work income, active income is out of the picture, your tax situation changes.
Yeah, you can control it a lot more.
You can do all kinds of different stuff that you couldn't do before, and you don't have to worry about certain taxable events and things like that. So that was a pleasant surprise. The other pleasant surprise was how much my social relationships have improved.
That's fascinating.
I mean, I was giving everything to work. I was doing really well with work. I had great relationships at work, but I wasn't prioritizing my friendships and my distant family relationships and things like that as well. I would spend time with people at work and I spent time with my immediate family at home, and I didn't really have anything left in the tank other than that. But now I'm just reconnected with old friends and my parents, everyone. I travel more often. I'm doing a random trip in January, just me and my uncle. I've never done this before. We're just going to do a road trip, just the two of us. Things like that can happen, but it takes a deliberate choice to do that. It's not like it's just magically going to pop onto your plate.
Yeah.
I think if you sit around waiting for these things, you might feel depressed. You're like, wow, I'm not talking to people. Nothing's happening. I don't feel socially connected. But I intentionally go and schedule things with people. I reach out more often. And I find that it becomes easier and easier to do that. And now because of that, I just feel generally happier than I felt before doing that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like it's super exciting to hear all that as someone who's like working through the like saving for that goal, right? Not necessarily early retired yet, but it's cool to hear the good aspects of it, because I think so often, like you said, you were worried about money going into it and you were worried that that was going to kind of consume your mental space. But also, if you flip that on its head and think, "Oh, I had a good year where my accounts didn't decrease really, and now you're able to go into the next year with those gains," like that, it really shrinks your chance of failure, right? Like if you have 1 or 2 good years in a row and things keep going up, whereas you were building the whole plan on a number that was much smaller, and now that it's bigger, you're even more likely to be successful. So some of that stress can come off if you're able to have a couple good years.
That's right. That's right. Like I even watch a lot of what's happening in the economy, and it's really painful to watch in a position where like the buffer alone has allowed me to absorb and just maintain where I am and actually even get ahead. And I know that's not everyone's situation. I'm helping and actually doing financial planning for people close to me to help them with their situation right now, because they haven't made certain moves like that. And situations like this can be really hard and stressful. Finance stress is real. It is one of the top stresses that everyone deals with. And it can really control your life when that's mitigated and you no longer have that financial stress. It's not like all stress is gone. You'll still have stress in some other area, but that's such a significant source of it that I think it just is this weight that just comes off of you. It really helps.
Yeah, we don't quite realize how much we think about money until we don't have to think about it anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like then suddenly it's gone off your back and that stressor's not there, because naturally when you're going through it and there's bills to pay and there's income to make and there's all these different debt payments to balance and stuff, it's naturally in the back of your mind. And when the income piece isn't something you have to worry about, that's 40 hours a week that's freed up to do other things, right? Like there's so much time you get back. And that was one of the things you spoke to early. I want to move into helping our audience start thinking about this going forward for themselves as well, because I think you painted a fantastic picture of what this work optional and financially free life can look like. But let's help the audience start to think about this going forward for them. How do they actually begin the thought process around financial independence or financial freedom?
Yeah, it's exactly why I put a guide together, because this can be an overwhelming topic for a lot of people, but I will do my best to boil it down into the simple stuff. But let's just start with the biggest barrier, just because we have to talk about it first, which is avoidance, which is this idea of not really looking at your situation and knowing where you stand. Because until you know where you stand, there's no way to build the goal and know what strategies are going to work for you. 41% of Gen Z admit they won't even look at their bank account.
Wow.
Because it causes too much anxiety. So this is a real thing, right? Like avoidance is real. Not looking at your bank accounts, not paying attention to your credit card statements. You have to look at your expenses. It's a hygiene thing. You have to do it at some point. Now, you can do it as a one-time thing just to calculate your financial independence number, which is what I'll talk about next. But, this good expense hygiene, I recommend every couple months just to look at your spending, because when you do that, and I won't use the big bad B word, the budget word, but I'll say like once you really start looking at your expense, you get ideas of what your actual cost of living is. Oh, I do spend heavily on subscriptions. Oh, I do like to eat out. That is part of my profile. And it's not just like you have to change all those things. It's about knowing what your high utility spending is, because when you spend where you enjoy, that's the spending that matters. It's the other stuff that we just need to get rid of it, because that's the capital we're freeing up to apply to these strategies. You need some fuel for the fire. We got to take it from somewhere. And if it's that gym membership you're not using, great. Let's put it somewhere better. So that's why the expense stuff's good. One, you might find duplicates. You might find a price hike you had no idea about. You might learn, if I just move to a different provider, I'm going to get a lock in a 3-year cheaper rate. There's all kinds of little tricks and stuff I capture in my guide to help people understand you have moves on the cost side. Yeah. Because there's only a couple levers that we have any control over. We can't change the system, but we can control our spending. We can control our income to a certain degree, and we can control what we do with our cash flow.
I talk extensively, and this is kind of like my dead horse that I'll keep beating forever. Like, just start tracking. Like, forget the budget word, like you said. And there's so much power in just knowing where you currently are. I tell this story often to my friends or like just people I'm talking to about money. When I was in high school, I started tracking my expenses, and I remember noticing that I was spending like probably over half of my, albeit small at the time, paycheck. I was just in high school on eating out. I told my friends that, and we just all decided, we don't need to spend that much money. That can still happen for you today when you start looking at your expenses and you say, I'm spending $300 a month on streaming services. And it just clicks in your mind easier and faster than trying to budget it ahead of time to say, well, I only want to spend $40 a month on something. If you actually just look at how much you're actually spending, you're going to find so many areas that you can naturally adjust and change. And it's just way easier to do it from that approach.
Yeah, it was coffee for me. I was commuting, and I had a long commute. And every morning, the only thing that made it possible for me was to buy a latte every morning. It helped keep me awake. It helped me be alert. But the prices kept going up. I realized I was spending almost $8 a day on that. And when I did the math, it was a gut punch. And I was like, wow, if I just buy a latte machine, an actual espresso machine, and make it myself in the morning, I'll learn a new skill and I'll save so much money. And that stuff, that's compounded. All these years now, I have not bought a single kind of Starbucks at all. I just make my own. And now some people go, that's silly. I like my morning. I want to go buy that. And that's fine. Again, if that's the high utility thing, great. Just be honest about the
Work
cost.
It into a plan.
Yeah, just be honest about it. Like if you're like, okay, that's costing me $1,500 a year. Okay, great. If that's a happy $1,500, do it. Just don't spend the $1,500 on some other place that you're spending it that maybe you're not getting as much out of.
Yeah, and that $8 a month or $8 a day you were mentioning comes out to like $240 a month. And if that story that I mentioned about a client that $100 a month over their child's lifetime became many millions of dollars, like just think about how much more powerful that money could be if it wasn't a piece of value. Like you mentioned, you You buy the coffee machine and now that money is saved on, sure, it's not the full savings, but it's still a large majority if you're able to
Yeah.
just make these slight adjustments, maybe change how it works. It was the same thing for my wife and I. We love soda. And we bought one of the like soda stream machines that you can make
Yep.
your own, so that one, we weren't like filling trash cans with cans and whatnot, but buying those cans adds up too. So like just look at different ways that you can make these slight adjustments. And that's really going to be how you free up cash flow to get ahead, lower your expenses, which is going to lead us into that financial independence number, or a freedom number as we're going to call it here as well. How do we begin to think about this number or this goalpost that we've mentioned?
Yeah. So I like to start with what we were just talking about because it helps ground us in the real number, because everyone's number is personal. Your number is different than mine. It's different than the audience. Most people, they just think they need $1 million. Most people. Now that this audience is probably too educated to think that, but if you ask the average person on the street, they'll say, "Oh yeah, if I had $1 million, I'd be fine." And that's the reason so many game shows are like, "Oh, $1 million." It's life-changing money when you don't know how much money you need, because you can imagine how you might spend it. But data shows that only like 49% of workers think they need that. Only 12% actually need that. So, it's based on the size of your life and the size of life you're going to live for the number of years you need to sustain off of it. It's a savings goal, right? What we're trying to do is replace the cash flow from work with withdrawals from and if you're doing early retirement, you have to have a non-retirement account to sustain you until you can get to retirement benefits and retirement accounts. It's that simple. Now, most people look at brokerage accounts like stock accounts and stuff like that as the bridge between when work stops and retirement, pensions, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, whatever it is, however you're getting your money, it becomes available to you. But there is two parts to this equation. If we're going to be really, I'm all about data and accuracy. Yeah. So in my book, I literally lay out the equations that says, okay, here's how we calculate our bridge phase. Here's how we calculate our retirement phase. So for me, I have two numbers. I don't like the one magic number. I don't think it's very accurate. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But the one magic number that you'll hear a lot of people talk about is 25 times your annual spending. If you know the FIRE movement, Financial Independence, Retire Early, there's this idea that you're going to take whatever you're spending now, you're going to multiply it by 25, then you're going to withdraw 4% when you hit your FI number. There have been shown a lot of issues with the Trinity study and other things that have calculated these magic numbers. For instance, these things are inflation adjusted, but back then when they were looking at inflation, they didn't consider healthcare changes and how much healthcare was going to increase over time. They also didn't consider mortality rates, that people are just going to generally live longer.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that make these magic numbers a little scary to me. I know there's more nuance in a life. Plus, whatever you're spending now is probably not what you're going to be spending the rest of your life. Let's be honest. Maybe you have kids that'll move out. Maybe your healthcare might go up because you're getting older. There's certain life events that will change your annual spending. Now, we can still estimate to a high degree of confidence what that annual spending is going to look like, though, based on anticipated life events. If you know I'm likely going to move, well, okay, we can start to get a good idea of what your geographic arbitrage, basically your cost of living change based on your new location looks like based on that move. So we can kind of get a good idea. But anyways, to simplify this, instead of just saying take 25 times whatever you're spending now, start to think about what your estimated target years might look like. For the X number of years you're going to be in early retirement, let's say it's 10. Let's say you're going to early retire at 55 and you're going to take standard retirement benefits at 65. That's when maybe you take Social Security, for instance, and you want to start withdrawing from your 401k. Great. When you have 10 years that we need to divide by whatever you think you would like to be spending per year. Easy, not hard math. And then when you get into your retirement, you can look at your Social Security if you want to depend on that. But then we just want to estimate the rest of our years out based on what's in retirement accounts. That just tells you how much money you need to have in both account sets. Once you do that, you have your goals, and now you just work towards those goals. And then there's great strategies on how to get enough in your brokerage set and your non-brokerage set so that you can withdraw. And then there's withdrawal strategies so that you feel good that you're not taking too much money out too quick and getting yourself into trouble. So I know I covered a lot there, but what I wanted to get at is a lot of it does come down to understanding your needs in the future and doing that introspective exercise of, okay, I'm going to be an empty nester maybe at some point, and I might move, I might build a house, I might travel 2 times a year. Once you kind of go through that level, you can start to say, okay, I'm estimating my spending might be 20 grand more or 20 grand less than what I'm spending per year now. Once you have that number, it's not that hard of a math problem.
Yeah, what I really took away from that is this is a very nuanced thing that we have to think through. It's not completely black and white. Like, it's not just 25 times your annual spending. For me and my wife, we don't have any kids yet. We're looking to adopt, which is its own big expense now.
Nice.
But that means we're going to have kids in the equation for the next 18, 20, 22 years, right? And that's going to completely change things. We don't own a home. The picture I'm painting is that our financial situation is not set in stone. So if we were to take 25 times our annual expenses right now, it's just a wrong number because we're throwing money at adoption agencies and all these different places that aren't consistent. So I love the nuanced approach there.
I guarantee you it's the wrong number.
Yeah.
Almost completely, because the average cost of a single dependent across 18 years, if you provide for their college education, is over $300,000. So you would be at least $300,000 short, but that's not even looking at the adoption costs and all the other stuff you just mentioned. So yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think FIRE it's so appealing, because it's so simple.
It's a good
but it's
starting
also a
point,
little
at
dangerous.
least.
I'm very active in the FIRE community, and I see it all the time. People are really attracted to it, but the amount of anxiety in that community is really worrisome. People are always very nervous. Now, the people that figure it out, they're fine, and they're the ones telling everyone to stop being so nervous. But everyone else is like, this doesn't feel quite right. Am I going to be okay? Well, in my book, I decided to just get to the nuance level. And then I realized not everyone wants to run math problems. So I took my spreadsheet. Again, I'm a very spreadsheet oriented person, but I turned that into a free tool for everybody, a smart planner. And I just put it up on the website and just give it away for free, because I know without the tool, this can be very daunting to go and do all this. So once you put all of those expenses, you dump them all in there, it automatically calculates your cost of living, and it projects out for like 50 years or more, as long as you want to go. And you can change the inflation number and everything. You can see how much your cost might change. And you can start to estimate your targets. And from that, it will automatically calculate your goals. I just basically put my equations from the book into my planner, because that's how I figured them out. From that, you can really just do this. It's not that much work to go and get to these numbers and then see where you stand and start making some progress.
Yeah. And I've been toying around in my mind of this idea of making our retirement goals seem like a loan payment to ourselves. It's so easy to visualize a debt payment with an end date, right? Like you make the $300 payment, it'll be gone in 5 years. You make $400, it'll be a little less than that. And I've really been thinking about the idea of like, can we flip the script? It's a lot harder because investment returns fluctuate more. It's not a fixed interest rate. But I would really wonder if, when you get into that nuanced approach, like running all that math you just mentioned, having a monthly payment amount, right, that is your debt to your retirement, I think could really help a lot of people's mindset. How have you seen like just running the math calm that anxiety?
Oh, it's been huge. Like so many of these apps and stuff out there are gamifying different aspects of your financial picture, but none of them, very few, really give you a full snapshot of it, right? Because like, again, it's a cash flow game. Where do I put this dollar? How far will it get me? So ignoring debt is probably the biggest mistake people make. And when they do take it on, 54% of borrowers will prioritize paying off the visible debts in their life, the car loans or credit cards, not the student loan. But when I put it all in my spreadsheet, I actually saw that my student loan was going to hurt me more longer term than some of those smaller debt credit card payments.
But the student loan is over 10 years.
The data showed me to do the opposite. Yeah. So this is where, like, we have a dual system brain, right? We have our emotional self, we have our rational self. Our rational self is the planner, and our emotional self is the reactor. And when we don't have a plan, the emotional self comes in, and then we're just reacting to things. Sometimes that will get us in trouble, but we can actually hack ourselves to use that to our benefit as well, and create intrinsic motivation. When we're really excited about this goal, this vision of this free life that we want to live, we can use those emotional motivations to make progress. but we need that plan to kind of settle us in so that we're not only moving from emotion, we can get past the bumps because there's tons of those and actually like making decisions. And then we can see how far it moves the needle. Because I can tell you I was like, this strategy is going to be amazing. I'm going to shave like 3 months off my plan. And I could see it didn't. And I had to figure out a new strategy. I couldn't be emotionally attached to my idea. I was doing that a lot. I was like, oh, this is such a cool idea. I can't wait for this to work. And then it didn't work. And I had to be honest with myself.
Yeah, I think we underestimate both the emotional impact of all of this, but also how powerful it is actually working out the math. Like, I love math. That's why I'm in this space of financial planning and everything. I love a good spreadsheet. But for some people, that is just as terrifying as budgeting. And if you can approach it and actually look at the math and say, if I were to pay off this student loan early, it would save me $6,000 in interest. I think that's where people leave so much on the table. There is some great potential of running the math and figuring out a mathematical plan. And then you can say, well, how does that feel emotionally? Is that maybe too much? Maybe I need to back down the extra payment, $50, and put that towards investing. And you're still going to be okay either way. Just being able to look at the math and see how it works out with several different options can really, like we've been saying, calm that anxiety down and say, yeah, there's a structure to this and there's a way that this can work.
Let me give you one fast example here that might help people. You might think paying off your mortgage is the right thing to do. Throw all your money at that, take that mortgage out. I will feel so good when I own my home and that mortgage is gone. But the math may not actually show you that's the right thing to do for a couple of reasons. And again, really quick. One is your deduction you're getting from the interest you're paying on that mortgage might be a benefit to you based on how much income you have coming in at those years. That might actually be helping you tax wise. Second, that money that you don't put to paying down that mortgage probably would go further on a high interest credit card payment, pay down, or some other loan, or in a saved and maybe an invested account with a higher return. But that's not to say you can't pay the mortgage off. I was definitely part of my plan. I was not going to retire early with my mortgage. I just knew that I'd have anxiety about that. So for me, it was pay it down to the point where there was no longer PMI, private mortgage insurance, because that is just literally you paying insurance for
someone else,
insurance premium for the company to protect them. It doesn't help you at all. It's just a bad fee because they're penalizing you for not having enough down payment. Once I got that thing gone, which they don't take off automatically, by the way, you have to bug them. They pretend they didn't realize you had enough equity built. But after that, then you can slow down on that and get more returns other places, take all that extra returns, and then you can really pile on the mortgage towards the end if you want to get rid of it later when you know you don't need that mortgage interest deduction. That's a data-driven thing where emotionally I was just like, pay the mortgage, kill it.
Yeah, get rid
so
of it.
There's just another example.
Yeah. And that's one that's really hard to balance because if it's your living space and something were to happen, right? Like that's a huge deal. And we get so worried like, oh, what if the market goes down and the housing market goes down? But when you get into the nuance and you actually work through this with either someone like you who's been through the whole situation, or you find a financial planner that really works with early retirees that wants to run that math for you, there are people out there that are willing to help, whether it's listening to podcasts, connecting with people, just sending them questions, hiring a financial advisor, whatever route you may want to take. There's someone that can help you with all this, and just get started with some sort of community. Send us your questions and we can help point you in the right direction. But wow, this has been a fantastic conversation, Daniel. We moved through all of my questions without me having to ask them, which is always fun. And I enjoy those conversations. But I got two final things for you here as we're wrapping up. The first one's just going to be, how can people connect with you or reach out if they had any questions?
Yeah, thanks. One, this was fun. I really enjoy talking to you. I can tell we have very similar approaches to things, which is great. When I retired early, it wasn't something I was planning to do all the financial literacy stuff. I kind of tripped on it, but I really enjoyed doing it. I put a book together because people wanted a guide that I wanted to help my kids, and I wanted to be able to help people who were asking for it. And so I wrote a book called Escape the Clock. It ended up winning multiple awards, including the American Writing Award this year. And it's been a bestseller. So it's done really well. I'm very proud of it. I put that up on a website, escapetheclock.com, where I then transitioned to doing podcasting because I realized not everyone wants to read a book. Even though this has everything you need in it, I wanted to keep pushing out all these ideas. I wanted to meet people like you. I wanted to be able to help as many as possible. And I also volunteer my time. I teach financial literacy in my home state of Washington, but I also do it online for free. You can schedule time at escapetheclock.com as well. Completely free. I will never charge you. I just want to help as many people as possible. Just schedule a slot. We'll look through. I'll help you. We talk through some of these things, get you going, and then you can go from there. And there's also a free newsletter where I push out ideas every week as well. I'm just trying to find as many ways to help people as possible, but it's all at escapetheclock.com.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And of course, the link will be in the show notes so that people can find that later when they're not listening to this, if they're driving or something. But final question for you here, Daniel. What's one thing you wish you would have known about financial freedom when you were just getting started with money?
Whoa. Wow. One thing. Oh, it's so hard to pick one.
I'll give you two if there's two coming to mind.
I guess the first is just how much the system is designed to trap you into spending rather than, there's a reason this isn't taught in school. There's a reason
wow.
The dopamine hits reward us for spending and scrolling and all that stuff. I think I had an instinct to avoid a lot of it, but I do think I probably fell for it more than I should have. The other is just compound interest. I did not understand how powerful that is. If I had jumped into some of my investments earlier and I had not sat in a low interest savings account for so long and, not really just never carried a credit card bill, like just pay off the whole thing every single time and never allow any negative interest to be mounted there. Now, that's not always been possible at every phase of my life, but I could have gotten there way sooner if I just understood the power of how compound interest works for you and against you and made some of those small moves that we talked about earlier in my life. I would have doubled how well I had done at this point, at least.
Yeah, there's just things, if you can knock them out earlier and avoid some of the bigger issues that everyone finds themselves in, you're just miles ahead of everyone else. Daniel, this has been a fantastic conversation about financial independence, and I hope it helps a lot of our listeners because I certainly enjoyed it as well. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Daniel for coming on the podcast. That was one of my favorite conversations we've ever had here on the show. It was really fun to get into the nuances of financial freedom and financial independence and get to hear from someone who's really just living their best early retired life, right? He's just sharing this information that he knows and teaching other people. And guess what? He doesn't have to do it for money because he's already retired early and he's set up that financial foundation that allows him to do whatever he wants to with his time. And like we talked about in the show, the key thing that you get back with being early retired is your time. That is a huge piece that I think we underestimate how valuable that actually is. Having all of your time back completely in your own control and not in the control of an employer or someone else is a huge deal. And I want to hear from each of you down in the comments on Spotify or YouTube. What does financial freedom or work optional mean to you? Work Optional is a great book out there that I'd recommend checking it out at your local library, but it's a great concept to begin to wrap your mind around. What does it mean to have work be an optional part of your life? I think that can really change just a lot of the way we view why we're chasing financial independence, and it can provide you with a ton of motivation. So as we wrap up this episode, be sure to head over to the show notes and check out the link to Escape the Clock to check out Daniel's website and see what he's doing over there if you are interested in learning more. But thank you all for listening to today's episode. We covered a lot of great things, from what does financial freedom mean? Is it available to everyone? What is your financial independence number? And I really hope you were able to take away as much as I did from this conversation about how financial independence is nuanced and it's available for every single one of us. But thank you for listening to today's episode. The best way to stay up to date and connected with all things Money Talk is to subscribe to the podcast. Have a question or a comment? You can find links in the show notes to email me or leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube. And if you're looking to get started with budgeting, sign up for a Money Talk today. I'd love to work with you and help you with your budgeting. The link is in the show notes. And if you're a young adult or no one in your life who could benefit from some great financial planning advice, check out Financial Planning for Young Adults right where you're listening to this show. And remember, the best way to learn from today's episode is to go and have a Money Talk about today's topic with a fellow money buddy. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Money Talk. I'm your host, Skylar Fleming. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Money Talk. This show is provided for informational and entertainment purposes and may not be specific to your unique situation. Please be sure to do additional research before making any financial decisions.